In Last Week Tonight, John Oliver talks about
three big firms, and tonight we're going to focus on the oldest and largest one, McKinsey & Company.
He widely introduces that
firms like McKinsey sell themselves as can-do experts who can come in, provide an outside perspective and fix whatever ails a company, whether it's re-engineering an organisational chart, working on digital strategies, or deciding whether to sell off part of their business. You name it, they'll advise you on what to do.
John is sharing his satirical views of the firm. I'm Jack and actually spent 5 years as a consultant and project manager myself with McKinsey & Company. I now serve as an independent management advisor and I also run a YouTube channel on business and consulting careers, so I felt I really had to respond to these controversial views.
McKinsey doesn't see itself as just a bunch of PowerPoint slinging, power suit wearing micromanagers. As you can tell from their recruitment videos, they see themselves as operating as a force for good in the world.
Our purpose is to create positive, enduring change in the world.
The work you do with McKinsey will matter.
That's true. We consultants have a very positive self-image about our work and view ourselves as change agents or driving force for good. That actually is a pretty comfortable place to be in. But John, I can see that you disagree with this view.
As a humble McKinsey partner once put it, there are only three great institutions left in the world: the Marines, the Catholic Church, and McKinsey, which is a hell of a group to put yourself in. Look.
Well, the guy who said this in 1986 clearly was an arrogant douche. But John, I think you missed an even funnier quote from the same book that you later on in your show quote so often from, which I think describes the prejudice I receive about consulting in McKinsey regularly much more accurately. To those convinced that a secretive cabal controls the world, the usual suspects are Illuminati, lizard people, or globalists. They are wrong, naturally. There is no secret society shaping every major decision and determining the direction of human history. There is, however, McKinsey & Company. And even though this statement seemingly is coming from a McKinsey consultant, of course it's absolute rubbish. McKinsey is influential through its work, but there is no concerted worldwide conspiracy.
So if it's that influential, that ubiquitous, and is behind so much harm, tonight, let's take a look at McKinsey. And if this is the first time that you are hearing McKinsey's name, don't be embarrassed, because for a company with so much reach, it's gone out of its way to try and keep a low profile. It doesn't publicise its client list, and even its offices can be hard to spot.
We stopped by McKinsey's headquarters at 3 World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan.
Well, it's such a powerful company, and yet you'd never know they were here. There's not a single McKinsey sign anywhere. Why is that?
They don't want anyone to know anything about them. They want everything done in secret, and if that includes where they work, then so be it.
Well, that's not innately suspicious at all, is it? You've sealed yourselves inside an expensive, glass-fronted, nameless lair that is completely invisible to anyone, unless, that is, they simply type McKinsey into Google Maps. Or happen to hear that journalist say 3 World Trade Center while she literally showed you their address. Kudos, by the way, that was a dick move, and I genuinely appreciate it.
Okay, McKinsey does not publish its client list because clients typically do not like to admit they receive help from external service providers. Just for the record, when I was for a McKinsey project in Washington DC, I took a picture of the office door and you can see it clearly states McKinsey & Company, so nothing to hide here at least. And while McKinsey is a global company, I mean you find McKinsey offices in most of the world's largest cities, actually one reason why you may not find these big, large representative McKinsey office buildings is that McKinsey actually is rather small in comparison to, for instance, the Big Four auditing companies, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, EY and KPMG. I mean, each of these companies has 10 times as many employees as McKinsey. And usually McKinsey consultants do not spend much time in the offices. They are actually with their clients or work from home or wherever. I mean, what do you think is the reason why I sit in this stuffy hotel room right now? And if you want to understand once and for all what is the difference between these management consulting firms such as McKinsey, BCG and Bain and the Big Four auditing companies, Deloitte, PwC, EY and KPMG, I made a video there on just that. But I don't think that McKinsey keeps a low profile. I mean, it is one of the most popular employers in the world. McKinsey gets the cream of the cleverest kids from college and business school. 201,000 applied last year for 2,200 places. This obviously relates to consulting applications worldwide, and a little maths leads to the conclusion that the admissions rate is around 1%. So yes, this reconfirms how competitive the application process is. And I think you actually agree with this, John, since you say
they've also cultivated a reputation for hiring the best and brightest fresh out of elite colleges and MBA programs. And young, high-achieving types often use a stint at McKinsey as a springboard to bigger things. Former employees include Pete Buttigieg, Senator Tom Cotton, Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg, and Google CEO Sundar Pichai. And McKinsey picks its consultants through a notoriously rigorous interview process, asking candidates challenging and slightly unconventional questions.
One of the interview questions I was asked in my final rounds was how many pigs are in China, which sounds like a very silly question, but it's a really good question to test how you think, because it's not only, the answer doesn't matter, it's how, can you structure a problem? Can you take a very nebulous situation and put structure around it in a way that makes sense, and then logically deduce things in order to get to an answer that's meaningful?
I mean, sure, that is one way to describe it. Another way might be to say that they're just trying to see how good you are at bullshitting your way to a plausible-sounding answer, because if a business really needs to know how many pigs are in China, there are ways to find that out, like call Chinese pork magnate Qin Yinglin, or just Google how many pigs in China.
Okay, John, let me explain to you this question about the pigs in China. Actually, when you undergo your consulting job interviews, you'll be thrown at many such so-called brain teaser questions. For instance, also, how many bananas fit into a Boeing 737? And the point is not to derive the right answer, like Googling it, but you want to see if a candidate is able to run you through a structured problem-solving or thought process. So in this context, you will want to see how the candidate would approach this question and get to an estimate of the pigs in China. But no joke, I once had to estimate the number of pigs in Germany for a McKinsey consulting project because we were serving a German chemical manufacturer who wanted to explore organic alternatives to phase out antibiotic growth promoters in animal mass farming. And Germans love pork, so I tell you the answer, there are 80 million German people and actually around 27 million pigs back then, a couple of years ago. And if you've ever been to Germany, how many pigs have you seen in the street? Probably none, and that is an issue.
But that is emblematic of a major role that consultants like McKinsey play, essentially allowing executives to say, I know job cuts are bad news, but it's what McKinsey told us to do. As one book on the company put it, they are without question the go-to consultants for managers seeking justification for savage cost-cutting, as well as a convenient scapegoat on whom to blame it.
What we're recommending is finding significant efficiencies by laying off the people at the bottom of the company and paying more to the people at the top.
Hey, that's me! Yes! With the money signs?
Yes!
It's me at the top! Okay.
Consulting firms as pure cost cutters. Let me address this point first personally. During my time at McKinsey, I've managed to avoid almost entirely to work on cost-cutting projects and instead managed to go on engagements on the bright side of consulting life, revenue growth. Nevertheless, I do not want to deny that cost-cutting is an important consultant skill. Let me explain you why. Indeed, most of the time consultants are hired to help a company increase its profit. So here the infamous profit equation, a company can increase its profit by either growing its revenue or reducing its cost. And actually, both company executives and consultants alike love to grow revenue because it doesn't hurt anybody, everybody loves it and is motivated. And how do you do it? Well, you can either increase your price, but that's not always clear what happens afterwards, or you can increase your volume. And to increase the volume of goods or services you sell, you actually have to invest in marketing, new products, new ideas, and so on. The problem is just that can take time because you don't have full control over what happens, right? Because you depend on your customers. And if you instead reduce your cost, that typically can happen more immediately and you are in much better control of it. Hey, may I ask you, for what reasons do you think companies hire consultants? Honestly, I think consultants are completely useless. Wherever they go, the only thing they ever do is cutting costs, and then hundreds of employees get fired.
Excuse me.
Also, when you cut costs, cutting labor is not always the first choice. I mean, if you run a production plant, you need qualified, educated workforce in charge to manage your process efficiency. However, cutting labor cost is very attractive, especially in the Western economies, because their labor is most expensive. So if you consider energy consumption costs, I mean, these are heavily subsidized by governments around the world. And if energy consumption was bearing its true price, it was more expensive, then there also be more incentive to actually reduce resource consumption. So also you have to put some of the blame onto regulators, not just McKinsey. And just saying, if you enjoy watching this video, please leave a like and support my channel by subscribing for further top quality business and consulting career advice. I must apologize for the poor production quality of this video. I am around at the moment traveling and I have no professional lighting with me, no camera, no, just a webcam and no microphone. But you know, as a former McKinsey consultant, sometimes you have to improvise, and I'm really going out of my comfort zone here, not doing a video in my studio. I hope you enjoy watching it nevertheless. In the following, John shares some of the worst case examples of McKinsey consulting work. Here, just one example.
And if you think that was damaging, McKinsey's also worked with Purdue Pharma. They actually made nearly $84 million in fees from Purdue for advice on how to, quote, turbocharge sales of OxyContin. In fact, listen to the AG of Massachusetts explain just how intimately McKinsey was involved in Purdue's sales process.
McKinsey consultants actually went with Purdue sales reps to doctors' offices here in Massachusetts to critique them on how effective they were at selling OxyContin.
It's true. They did ride-alongs. And honestly, I didn't think I could have any sympathy for Purdue sales reps until I learned that they were trapped in a car with a McKinsey consultant for hours. Yeah, you mentioned that you went to Harvard. Can we please just be quiet and go sell some poison?
Here's my take just on this one.
Let me share with you my personal hall of shame with the 5 worst accounts of McKinsey activity given in this book. First, maybe the most well-known scandal, McKinsey provided strategy advice to American pharma company Purdue Pharma on how to sell more of its OxyContin drug, a painkiller and opioid that is highly addictive and has so far killed at least 750,000 Americans.
In his show, John dwells on several examples of worst-case McKinsey consulting work. Truth to be told, nothing of this is really new because he heavily draws on the accounts given in a book that appeared last year, written by Walt Bogdanich and Michael Forsythe, When McKinsey Comes to Town, written by the guy who said this.
They don't want anyone to know anything about them. They want everything done in secret, and if that includes where they work, then so be it.
So I thought after watching this sequence that this author, whom I highly respect, also may have some agenda. But anyway, reading this book is truly worthwhile because it really teaches you how consulting should not be. And if you want to learn more about the book and also my take on the book, I made a proper review video on this one. Check it out here. John then makes a very good point, I think, on so-called pro bono consulting work, hence consulting work for a good cause at reduced fees or at zero cost.
They also want me to tell you that they do a lot of projects like helping clients deploy vaccines or supporting refugees and rebuilding it in Ukraine, which is very nice. But think of it like this. How many uplifting McKinsey projects like More Snuggles at the Puppy Factory or Make Grandma Live Forever would you need to hear about to effectively counterbalance, turbocharge the opioid epidemic, help fuck up Rikers even more, and make a Saudi Arabian snitch list?
My personal take on this.
If we say that this was the distribution of McKinsey projects, with the most evil projects on the left-hand side and the ones for the best causes on the right-hand side, then I feel the book entirely focuses on these maybe bottom 2-5% of projects, though of course I do not know the exact number. McKinsey does hundreds, if not thousands of projects every year. And to be honest, the great majority of projects are some average boring efficiency improvement projects for some common industrial equipment manufacturing companies. On the other side of the spectrum, there also is a small share of projects that undeniably serve a good cause. And I can testify this, because I personally worked on one of them, a project investigating options to reduce plastics waste entries into our oceans.
This picture actually features me on a Filipino junkyard where we were interviewing Filipino waste pickers on local plastics waste economics. And actually this project was so tough and so intense, afterwards I had a small size burnout. I would like to expand with you on why McKinsey is what it is.
Is McKinsey the cause of all evil? I think probably not. In short, McKinsey is a mercenary serving those asking for its service. In other videos, I've jokingly dubbed McKinsey as the highest servant of capitalism. Note a servant and maybe a catalyst, but not the creator of it. At their best and their worst, McKinsey reflects where our market economies currently stand. Have no doubt that McKinsey would love to do a greater share of green and sustainability work, but unfortunately our economies are still designed in a way that most market actors are incentivized to increase their profits, but not to save the environment. Now I think you may still criticize McKinsey overrated potential. It manages to attract so many young and good-hearted talents that it could do even more to be both an anonymous voice as well as an actor for good. Upon joining the firm, in my first year I wrote a little manifesto in which I laid out how McKinsey could and should become a more political organization, for instance by holding internal votes among employees on what sort of work to accept and what to reject. Undoubtedly though, while this could make McKinsey a more credible actor, such a strategy would, at least in the short term, entail the risk of McKinsey losing some of its dirty business to less moralistic competitors.
John does not put the entire blame on McKinsey alone. He makes a very brief take on the wrongdoings of its major competitors.
It's not just McKinsey with these issues. Their main competitors have had them too. BCG was also in deep with the Saudis, and Bain was banned from state contracts in South Africa for a decade thanks to its role in a massive corruption scandal.
What truly happens when you remove McKinsey?
It's a significant source of evil in our world. Jack, you are a former McKinsey consultant yourself. Don't you think your outfit looks a bit ridiculous? And you, do you think your costume makes you look any better? Back to the book, which has been written by two top New York Times journalists. And if you like this video, please like, subscribe and share for further top quality business and consulting career advice. And McKinsey devil, go away! Oh no, an exorcist! McKinsey is gone. Now the world will become a better place.
John tops off his show with some McKinsey recruiting videos.
And until such time as that happens, the very least they can do is be a bit more transparent with their recruiting videos going forward.
Hi there. Here at McKinsey, we're an elite group of strategists, thinkers, analysts, innovators, guys named Braden, and Delta Platinum SkyMiles reward members, here to drive client success in any business venture. We're proud to say McKinsey alums include many of the most powerful people on Earth. And also, Pete Buttigieg.
We at McKinsey genuinely believe great consultants can come from anywhere. That's why our workforce features an incredibly diverse array of graduates from all over the Ivy League, even Cornell.
Okay, I must admit, I realized just now that it is just a brilliant parody, and you definitely have to watch the rest as well. You'll find the link to the show in the video description below this video. And John, if you happen to watch this reaction video, I must admit that I had not heard about either you or your show, but a couple of my friends made me aware of it and asked me if I lived behind the times. Maybe. Anyway, I want to say that I really enjoyed watching your show as well as your wit, and I'm subscribing to your channel right now, even though you may not depend on it. If you want to learn more about these hot topics, check out this video in which I analyze the book on which John bases his show on, When McKinsey Comes to Town. Also, check out this video on 6 McKinsey secrets you ought to know. And if you want to find out what McKinsey and other consultants truly do, check out this introduction video. Talk soon, Jack.